I'm John Davis, and this is Motor Week. Join us to see if the Pathfinder's rugged reboot means better times for Nissan. Pat Goss has a warning about a big rise in catalytic converter theft. Stephanie Hart hops aboard for a bus ride through history. Then we'll test Volkswagen's new small crossover, the Taos. So come drive with us next.
Motor Week, television's original automotive magazine, brought to you by Lucas Oil. Keep that engine alive.
You're shopping for tires online and you have questions.
I do.
We're TireRack.com and we have answers and tools to help.
Like our tire decision guide. It's, take a look.
TireRack.com. Find, deliver, install.
Rock Auto has auto parts from hundreds of manufacturers, offering a variety of brands, prices, and specifications. RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need.
The original Nissan Pathfinder built a rugged reputation that survives even today. But like many SUVs, it got caught up in the crossover craze, eventually trading its frame and truck-like ride for the comfort and flexibility of a unibody chassis. Well, there's a new Pathfinder, and while it doesn't quite return to its roots, it certainly makes a turn in that rut-loving direction. So let's be clear right from the get-go, when Nissan claims that this 2022 Nissan Pathfinder returns to its rugged roots, we're mostly talking about appearance, as it has always been quite capable and now features even more of the flexibility that today's family SUV buyers are looking for. Gone is last-gen soft jelly bean shape, replaced with a bold truck-like look that includes a taller face, exaggerated fenders, and thick slanted C-pillars. Yet it still incorporates recent Nissan styling cues such as the floating roof and V-motion grille. If they had done nothing more than that, the new Pathfinder would still be a hit with us. But the interior is also more open than before, with a dash design very similar to what we've seen in the Nissan Rogue, plus lots of nicely integrated small item storage spaces. On the console is a fairly traditional-looking shift handle, but it operates more as a slider. What it controls, however, is great news, as a new 9-speed automatic transmission replaces the CVT. Our SL is short of the top platinum trim, but still comes with leather seats, 9-inch touchscreen, brushed metallic accents, and power liftgate. Premium package adds a panoramic moonroof, 13-speaker Bose audio, and wireless phone charging, along with tow prep that allows for pulling up to 6,000 pounds of trailer. It also replaces the second row bench with captain's chairs, dropping capacity from 8 to 7, but adds a nice, easily removable center console. Access to the standard third row is quite good, with close to adult-friendly space, albeit not necessarily with long-distance comfort. Standard instrumentation features real analog gauges with a 7-inch advanced drive assist display. A 12-inch digital dashboard comes with top platinum trim. As for cargo space, a decent 16.6 cubic feet in back expands to 45 with third row folded and maxes out at 80.5. The space is also wide enough to haul 4-foot wide building materials flat on the load floor. Nissan sticks with the tried and true when it comes to the engine. Their familiar 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 outputting the same 284 horsepower and 259 pound-feet of torque as before. But its new 9-speed automatic had us looking forward to our time on the track as we rolled into Mason-Dixon Dragway. Off the line, it leaps forward with a lot of traction and power, hitting 60 in 7.7 seconds, 0.2 quicker than with last-gen CVT. The 3.5-liter sounds good and delivers consistent power throughout the quarter mile, with extremely smooth shifts all the way down the track. tripping the lights in 15.9 seconds at 89 miles per hour. Giving the supple, quiet ride the Pathfinder offers on the street, it felt surprisingly stiff in our handling course, exhibiting very little body roll. But our speeds were kept well in check with a fairly aggressive stability system that robbed power before we could get to the point of finding any oversteer or understeer. The stiffness is a result of a new design for the front suspension mounts, as well as upgraded dampers for the multi-link rear setup. Wider tires and a new dual-pinion electric power steering system work together to provide more stability as well as quicker steering response. Nissan's new intelligent all-wheel drive system is integrated into the drive and terrain mode selector with 7 to choose from. It's plenty suitable for off-road excursions, but aids in handling as well by anticipating slip and proportioning power appropriately. Brakes were quite impressive, bringing this heavy utility to fade-free consistent stops from 60 in just 97 feet. Nissan's standard Safety Shield 360 includes automatic braking, and ProPilot Assist is now standard on all but the base Pathfinder. Government fuel economy ratings are 21 city, 27 highway, and 23 combined. We averaged a fine 23.7 miles per gallon of regular, for an average energy impact score of 14.3 barrels of yearly oil use with 6.3 tons of CO2 emissions. Pricing starts at $34,560, with all-wheel drive a $1,900 option for any of the 4 available trims. After years of making crossover SUVs more and more car-like, the current trend is returning things back to a more rugged and simpler time. Well, at least as far as looks are concerned. Still, the 5th generation 2022 Nissan Pathfinder does have a rich history to draw from and delivers what today's buyers need in a family crossover better than ever, but does so with one eye on the past and one eye focused on adventure. Maybe you have an alarm system to prevent your car from being stolen. But what about the more valuable parts of your car? Pat Goss has advised how to keep one precious component out of the hands of thieves.
There's a new problem that's affecting drivers, and it's almost an epidemic, and that is catalytic converter theft. And here to give us some pointers, we have Tom Taylor, our online parts guru. Tom, welcome back to Goss's Garage.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
Absolutely. Catalytic converters are being stolen right and left around here, and I think it's a national thing.
It used to just be vehicles that are high off the ground, pickups and vans, where the thief can crawl under there with a saw and hack it off. Now a lot of the hybrids have more precious metals in the catalytic converters, the platinum and palladium and rhodium. So it's a lot more, the thieves get more money for the stolen catalytic converter, and they figure out how to wiggle under these really low-slung vehicles to either saw off the catalytic converter, or more commonly now they use a pipe cutter that's kind of a sharpened piece of chain that you just spin around the pipe to cut through it.
Yeah, well, they'll figure a way around just about anything. Any practical way to slow them down? Yeah,
there's companies that sell elaborate shields to bolt under specific vehicles. An idea I like is just take simple pipe clamps and festoon the pipe around the catalytic converter where the thieves have access to the bare pipe with those. And if it's like porcupine bumps, then it's harder to get either a saw or one of those chain pipe cutters on it.
Oh, very good idea. I'll have to recommend that to some of my clients. Okay, so you're seeing an increase in the sales of converters?
Yes, and the converters for a lot of the hybrids, the hybrids have combustion engines that don't warm up real fast because the vehicle's running off battery a lot. So they often have piping that goes to the catalytic converter to scavenge heat to heat the vehicle's interior. So those catalytic converters have plumbing that gets damaged when the catalytic converter is cut off, and it really increases the cost quite a bit. It could be thousands of dollars just to replace the catalytic converter.
Yeah, we're seeing that with some of our fleet customers, some of their older vans and so on. They do so much damage cutting these things off that the insurance companies just total them and take them to auction.
Yeah, it's such a waste to destroy a vehicle that has more miles on it for something as dumb as this.
Absolutely.
So, just always thinking about how to make it harder for the thief. So park over those mud puddles. You know, it's like locking your car or your house. Just make it a little bit harder, and they'll try to find an easier victim.
There you go. Tom, thank you so much. And if you have a question or a comment, drop me a line right here at Motor Week.
We talk a lot about cars, SUVs, and trucks here on Motor Week, but buses are a big part of the history of transportation too. Well, the largest and most telling collection of buses in the country can be found at a museum in central Pennsylvania. Our FYI reporter Stephanie Hart was on board as these giant people movers took to the open roads to tell their story.
I'm riding around in this 1954 scenic cruiser. We took this bus and others out of the AACA Museum for the day to celebrate them. These buses don't hit the road often. When they do, they're noisy and harder to drive than buses today. Fago Motors became the first company to build a bus from the ground up in 1921. This 24 Fagle is one of only 5 left in the country. The AACA Museum in Hershey, Pennsylvania has 2 on display.
It was basically a commuter bus in California. Okay. It would go from Santa Monica to maybe to LA.
100 years later, people are still attracted to these buses and intrigued by their history.
I am a big fan of the vintage buses. Just really exciting to see and learn the history of the buses.
And preserving that history is what AACA is committed to doing.
There's no one else preserving the bus industry. Today, a lot of people don't realize what the bus industry has done and how they got there.
That's why hands-on learning is extremely important for younger and older generations.
One of the buses needed a carburetor rebuilt. The kids that were helping us, they all looked and said, "What's a carburetor?" And then some of the guys who were older said, "Well, I've never rebuilt a carburetor." So I had to rebuild the carburetor yesterday, get it back on the bus and get it running. As electric cars become the thing that everyone wants, there's no longer going to be combustion engines in some vehicles, including buses. So we're trying to preserve that.
Preserving that by celebrating that once a year during the Museum of Bus Transportation's Spring Fling. Some people traveled as far as California here to Hershey, Pennsylvania to check out all these unique buses. Gary Hatt owns this 40-foot bus that he converted into a motorhome.
It's outstanding. I've met a lot of people I've been chatting with on Facebook and talking to on the phone for a long time, so now I get to meet them in person and see their buses, so it's worked out great.
These buses from the 50s and 60s were extremely popular. People remember riding these buses back and forth to work or to go on vacation.
The public who rode on buses between cities would have rode on the 4104, the 4106, and this scenic cruiser. They are predominant GM, and they controlled the market, and everyone recognizes them.
People also recognize this one. This was the backup bus used in the 1994 movie Speed, starring Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock.
It was a backup bus, but they would have to rip the floors up of the vehicles and have them staged there. So if something happened to the primary bus, they could continue to shoot because the shooting was without a floor because that's where the bombs were. So we don't know where that bus stood in the sequence, but we don't know if it was used or not, but it was there.
Cool, regardless. Fueling the timeless fascination with buses, no doubt.
I'm a motor coach operator. I've been driving buses for 27 years. Started working off at Greyhound, driving the MC9 with a stick shift. Had a love for appreciation of buses ever since I was a little kid. My great-grandfather was a bus driver, so when I got off for school, I played hooky. So I would always get on his bus and ride around. My grandfather never said anything, but I found out that I fell in love with the engines, the way the suspension was, and I became a bus nut.
And he made us one too.
Time now to hit the start button for a new round of First Drive Quick Spin. Ever since the second generation Acura TLX debuted earlier this year, most talk has revolved around anticipation of this version of it to arrive, the 2021 TLX Type S. Well, it's finally here and we're off for a quick spin. Starting with what is already Acura's best performing sedan, the Type S adds a 355 horsepower V6 turbo engine, sport-tuned double wishbone front suspension, upgraded Brembo brakes, an additional Sport Plus mode added to the integrated dynamic system, and of course, super handling all-wheel drive. Acura is rightly proud of this new turbo V6, which features lots of trickle-down tech from the NSX and cranks out 354 pound-feet of torque without feeling like it's working that hard. The TLX's standard 10-speed automatic transmission gets beefed up to handle the additional power and provide quicker shifts. Adaptive dampers are standard, and buyers can also upgrade to an NSX-inspired high-performance wheel and tire package that shaves more than 20 pounds of weight and adds Pirelli P0 summer tires. This marks the return of the Type S label to Acura. Missing for 13 years, Acura wants you to think of it as more of a tweener-type performance model, not a Honda Type R situation. Plenty track capable, but with luxurious daily driving still a priority. So the interior gets dressed up with some ultra-comfortable leather sports seats, 17-speaker ELS studio sound, and of course, lots of Type S logos. Outside, there's a diamond pattern grille with increased airflow, large quad exhaust tips, and some unique color combinations. Arriving at dealerships now, the 2021 Acura TLX Type S starts around $53,000, with less than $2,000 built for the 21 model year. Yes, Lotus is still around, and heck yes, they still make some pretty awesome sports cars. The latest is an updated Evora, now known as the 2021 Evora GT. Since we last drove this pint-sized track weapon, Lotus has changed the name from Evora 400 to Evora GT. Why? Well, because it no longer has 400 horsepower, as they've squeezed even more out of the Toyota-based mid-mounted supercharged 3.5-liter V6 engine, which now cranks out 416 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque when equipped with the 6-speed manual transmission. A 6-speed automatic is also available and allows the V6 to deliver even more torque at 332 pound-feet. More power is always welcomed, but since its inception, Lotus has always been about removing weight. And with an available carbon pack, the GT comes in 71 pounds lighter than the 400. In addition, a front lip spoiler, front wheel arch air louvers, rear wheel arch vents, and revised rear diffuser work to double the amount of downforce. The interior is simplistic and all business, but lots of Alcantara material and contrast stitching keep it from looking like simply a race car forced into street duty. Still, driving the Evora GT on the street is a bare bones and primitive experience, but it's all worthwhile when you hit the track, which for us meant a trip to Thornburg, Virginia's Dominion Raceway.
The Evora GT is a handful on the street. The clutch is really heavy, the steering is heavy, not to mention there's basically no visibility out the back glass. But once it's on the track, the clutch, the steering, the suspension, it all feels right at home. And when the engine gets up over 4,500 RPM, the sound is fantastic. All the way up to the 7,000 RPM red line. It's all a very raw experience, but in a fun, visceral way.
2021 Lotus Evora GT pricing starts at around $97,000. And they're on sale now. And we'll have more quick spins soon. While SUVs are getting smaller and smaller, car makers seem to be packing more and more into them. Case in point, the Volkswagen Taos, their smallest current SUV. So let's find out how much it adds to the small crossover scene. The 2022 Volkswagen Taos may be VW's new entry into the small crossover segment, but truth is, it's really not all that small. With 175.8 inches of overall length, it's actually an inch and a half longer than the original compact Tiguan, which has grown in recent years to make room for the Taos. So VW calls the Taos a compact too. Like most current VWs, it's based on their MQB platform, and with its sculpted hood, tall face with wide 3-bar grille, and strong character lines, it fits in nicely with the rest of the growing Volkswagen utility family. And it really does feel roomy inside, one of our testers even describing rear seat legroom as enormous. That rear seat is not only split folding, but has a pass-through as well. So you can haul longer items like skis and still have seating for 2 adults. And there's a great 27.9 cubic feet of cargo space in back, expanding to 65.9 with the seat backs folded. VW continues to ratchet up the amount of standard features in their vehicles, even including their digital cockpit here in the Taos, something most car makers only make available in their highest trims. Though top SEL does get a larger 10-inch version of it. There are some hints that it's built to an entry-level price, but most things you interact with have a high-quality feel. All models get MIB touchscreen infotainment, a 6.5-inch screen in base S trim. All others step up to an 8-inch screen. The Taos uses an updated version of the Jetta's 1.4-liter Turbo 4, punched out to 1.5 liters. Internal friction has also been reduced, cooling improved, fuel injection system upgraded, and turbo cranked up a bit to produce 158 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. All of this and fine fuel economy too. At 28 city, 36 highway, and 31 combined for front-wheel drive, government fuel economy ratings are better than many compact sedans. We averaged a fine 30.6 miles per gallon of regular, for a way better than average energy impact score of 10.6 barrels of yearly oil use with 4.7 tons of CO2 emissions. Standard front-wheel drive versions come with an 8-speed automatic transmission, while all-wheel drives get a 7-speed DSG. There are more differences as well, as 4Motion-equipped Taoses have a slightly shorter wheelbase, driving mode selection, and even a more trick multi-link rear suspension. This results in a slightly reconfigured cargo area, which does mean a loss of some space. So when it comes to driving, they each have their own unique feel too. Our front-wheel driver has a more basic torsion beam rear setup, but both versions have the same strut-type front suspension. So off to Mason-Dixon Dragway, but before we started running quarter miles, we hit our handling course. Without a back-to-back comparison, it's hard to say how much better the 4Motion version would be, but there's nothing fundamentally wrong with this front-wheel drive setup. Only minor body roll to deal with, and it was quite fun to whip in and out of the cones, provided we kept the speeds just shy of the point at which the stability system wants to take over. The Taos could use a little more grunt off the line, as it takes a while for power to get flowing. 60 miles per hour took a leisurely 8.8 seconds to achieve, with the quarter mile coming in at 16.7 at 83 miles per hour. So power may not be overwhelming, but it felt plenty adequate in everyday driving situations. The torque gets things up to speed quickly enough to find gaps in traffic. And while it may not be as quiet inside as some rivals, ride quality is quite comfy. A fairly high seat height and great visibility all around really do make you feel like you're in something much bigger. Even the side mirrors are better than most, very substantial, delivering great rearward visibility. Only basic safety systems are standard, as automatic emergency braking requires adding VW's IQ Drive driver assistance package. So pricing starts at a relatively low $24,190. Available all-wheel drive pricing varies with trim level. With more options to choose from than just about any other vehicle category, we certainly didn't need another small crossover. So if you're going to do it, you'd better bring something new to the party. The 2022 Volkswagen Taos has a mix of spaciousness, standard features, and functionality that is more than enough to shake up the segment. When it comes to small SUVs, bigger isn't always better, but it sure doesn't hurt. Well, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, for more Motor Week, including daily news updates, podcasts, and even complete episodes, cruise on over to pbs.org/motorweek. And I hope you'll join us next time as we tear up the test track in the Dodge Charger Hellcat Red Eye. Then find out what Mitsubishi has in store with an all-new Outlander compact crossover. Till then, I'm John Davis. We'll see you right here on Motor Week.
To learn more about Motor Week, television's original automotive magazine, visit pbs.org/motorweek. To order a DVD of this program, call 1-800-873-6154. Motor Week has been brought to you by Lucas Oil. Keep that engine alive.
You're shopping for tires online and you have questions.
I do.
We're TireRack.com and we have answers and tools to help.
Like our tire decision guide. It's, take a look.
TireRack.com. Find, deliver, install.
Rock Auto has auto parts from hundreds of manufacturers, offering a variety of brands, prices, and specifications. RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need.
This program was produced by Maryland Public Television, which is solely responsible for its content.
You're watching PBS.